So once you've stated the restriction, the fun part happens. The test, I have to cancel out terms that are common. So an x minus 4 over here cancels out with this x minus 4. It is very, very important to factor correctly, because if you factor incorrectly, you will not have terms that cancel each other out. Okay, oops. Can someone tell me what is left in my numerator? I canceled out a lot of stuff, so what is left in my numerator? Try it. Good. X plus 3 over x plus 4. Anyone who does not go to a seminar or learn this concept properly would only put one restriction based on their final answer. But really, this question has 1, 2, 3, 4 restrictions. So always remember, state restrictions on your original question before you cancel out. The division question. Okay, so your very first step is to factor. Factor all these trinomials. I'm going to do one for you. Y squared minus 4, very simple. Factors to y plus 2, y minus 2, because it's a difference of squares situation. You guys factor the trinomials. Good. Y plus 3, y plus 3. Now what about the denominator? Y squared plus y minus 6. Yep.
Y plus 3, y minus 2.
Good. Y plus 3, y minus 2. Now the reason why students have trouble with this question is because they just assume, oh, I can start canceling right away, but this is division, and we're dealing with fractions here. So what is the rule when you divide? You have to do what? Yep, Cedric? Sorry? Cedric? Yes, we have to flip the second rational expression, the second fraction. So I'm going to rewrite this question as 1 over y plus 2, y minus 2, multiplied by, and I have to flip. So my old numerator becomes my new denominator, and my old denominator becomes my new numerator. Okay, before I start canceling things out, what do I have to state? Restrictions. But now I need you guys to drop your pencils and look at the board. Restrictions are different when we're dealing with division questions, because with the original question, we had our old denominator, right? And our old denominator needs to have restrictions stated on it. Old denominator. Also, so 3y minus 2. That was our old denominator. So we have to still state restrictions on it. We also have to state restrictions on the new denominators. Okay, so not just all this time we've only been stating restrictions on denominators. In this particular question, we have to state restrictions on the old denominators as well as the new denominators. That was my old denominator. This is a new denominator, and this is our original denominator, okay? So instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4 restrictions, we have 5, 6 restrictions. Those are for division questions only. So before I continue, I'm going to state my restrictions. Y plus 2 cannot be equal to 0. That means y cannot be equal to negative 2. Y minus 2 cannot be equal to 0, so y cannot be equal to positive 2. Y plus 3 cannot be equal to 0, so y cannot be equal to negative 3. Y, and it's the same thing. Y plus 3, y plus 3, y plus 3, those are all the same. Y minus 2 cannot be equal to 0, so y cannot be equal to positive 2. Sometimes you have duplicate restrictions. You just have to recognize that. I'll give you a second to copy that down. Okay, what's the fun part again? Yusuf, what's the fun part? Yes, canceling. So I have y plus 3 that cancels with this y plus 3. Y minus 2 cancels with this y minus 2. Is there anything else I can cancel? No, that looks about right. So my final answer is 1 over y plus 2 and y plus 3 in the denominator. So not hard, just some essential rules that you have to remember. Yep.
Do you leave it like that, or do you keep going?
No, you can leave it every time in this unit guide. I want you to leave stuff in factored form. There's also some hard word problems in the unit guide, but I'm going to be doing some pen casts on that, okay? So we're going to go on Edmodo in a second, but one more question and then I have to show you something on Edmodo. Do you guys want a typical test question so you know what to expect on your test? Okay, here we go. So that means I'm going to tackle this part of the question first. Because I want to get through all of this, I'm going to go through this very quickly, okay? So when we're dividing, what do we have to do again? We have to flip, right? So I'm going to highlight that I'm flipping that term. So my new equation becomes x squared plus 4x plus 3 over 2x squared minus x minus 10 multiplied by 2x squared plus 4x cubed over x squared plus 3x multiplied by, we're flipping this, so it becomes x over x squared plus 3x plus 2. Now remember, because it's a division question, after I factor, I would have to state restrictions on this denominator, this denominator, this denominator, and this original denominator. Next step is factoring, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this becomes x plus 3 times x plus 1 multiplied by 2x minus 5 times x plus 2. The numerator over here is not a trinomial, and it's also not a difference of squares. So I'm going to take the greatest common factor out, 2x squared out, and I'm left with 1 plus 2x, and x times x plus 3. And then I have x times x plus 2, x plus 1. Once again, I just want to highlight, we're stating restrictions on this, and this, right? That's a lot of restrictions. Restrictions can really give you some good marks. So 2x minus 5 cannot be equal to 0. That means that basically x cannot be equal to 5 over 2. X plus 2 cannot be equal to 0. X cannot be equal to negative 2. What happens when x is by itself, when we have a monomial? Try it. Good. Those are the easiest type. We can just write x cannot be equal to 0. X plus 3 cannot be equal to 0. X cannot be equal to negative 3. X plus 2 is a duplicate one, so I don't have to do that. X plus 1 cannot be equal to 0. X cannot be equal to negative 1. And x is also a duplicate, so I don't have to go over that. Final step, my cross cancellation. So this x cancels with that x. X plus 1 over here cancels with this x plus 1. X plus 3 cancels with this x plus 3. And so in my final answer, I am left with, in my numerator, 2x squared times 1 plus 2x. And all that's left in my denominator, I'm writing everything that's left in my denominator. So 2x minus 5, and x plus 2, and another x plus 2, so that makes it x plus 2 squared.